when you go through something like this, you feel like you're stagnating in your life and you're going backwards. And for men, we need completion within our lives.
Hold me, I'm sinking, Father, this world is just too much on my own.
I want to welcome my friend Garry Junkuhn here. Gary's from Johannesburg originally, but what's most impressive about this guy is how he was able to reach into my heart the first time I talked to him. And it was like he had read my mind, and he pulled some of my greatest pain right out of my chest. And so Garry is the founder of 100,000 Fathers, also known as 100K Fathers. If you haven't checked them out, please do. What he's doing for men in particular that are dealing with the trauma of parent alienation in the wake of divorce is remarkable. Garry, welcome.
Jonathan, thank you so much for having me on your show, brother.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this, and I'm glad that you're my last interview of 3 today, because then we don't have we're not in a rush. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to start 100K Fathers? And then we'll just sort of dive in, because I think a lot of guys didn't even know anything like this existed. Like me, probably 4 weeks ago, I'd never heard of you, and I'm so glad that I found you guys, and I'm glad I found you for the guys listening.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a little bit about me. I try and keep it as brief as possible because there's a lot that we'd love to cover today. So born in Johannesburg in South Africa. Grew up in a town called Pietermaritzburg, is where a lot of the events with Gandhi took place. So it's a very interesting but very small town. Very shy growing up. I couldn't speak to anybody, even any cousins or uncles or anything like that. So even being on this podcast now, my younger version of myself would be pretty happy right now.
Okay.
My journey really, I feel, started about 9 years ago when I lost contact with my two sons when they were 10 and 13. And that first year got to be one of the most painful events in my entire life. And everybody around me didn't understand what was unfolding. I couldn't really explain it properly. Every part of my life just ended up collapsing. Ended up going to a hospital, turning 40, holding onto an X-ray machine. Not how I wanted to start, or at least experience my 40th birthday. And so much of this was as a result of a lack of understanding on how to navigate post-divorce and communication with children. And as you get into new relationships after getting divorced, it's something, let alone getting into a marriage and relationships, there is no real guidance on that, let alone afterwards and how children are going to respond to a new partner being in your life. And I didn't have the language. I didn't know how to explain that to them. I didn't really know how to navigate that properly. And it got to a place where for 6 months was amazing. This lady that was in my life, my son seeing this lady, it was about 3 years after getting divorced. And she was going to move in with me. And as I started sharing that, I probably shared that in not the greatest way. But I think some fears of stories about stepmothers. There's so many terrible movies of stepmothers. And
well, Disney sure knows how to trash them.
They do a great job at that, right?
Yeah.
So things just started unwinding, or at least just unwrapping, raveling apart there, if that's a word, but just collapse of my relationship with my sons as the day got closer to this girlfriend moving in with me. And whatever I tried, they just wanted to see me less and less and less and less, to the day that she moved in was the last day I ended up seeing my sons for over 3 years. Wow. And whatever I tried in that year after that, losing contact with them, it just seems to make things worse. And I've seen that now over and over again with fathers that I've worked with, that the harder they try and push to be able to see their kids, the less they end up seeing their kids. And it just seems to inflame that situation. And I kept thinking it's going to be another week, another month, and I'll, they're young kids, 10 and 13, it's just a turbulent time, but they're kids, I'm the adult. And so I was stubborn in this situation, and they were stubborn in this situation, and it just resulted in this time going by to the point where a year had gone by, And fortunately, about 7 months into not seeing them, I met up with a good mentor of mine. He must have been about 62 at the time. And I said to him, Gwyn, I don't understand why my two sons don't want to see me. You know, like it's been 7 months, supposed to be seeing them this weekend. Why are they still so angry? It doesn't make sense what's happened. I've done nothing really wrong here. And he said to me, Garry, what is the gift in this situation? I said, what do you mean? What is the gift? How can this be a gift? I don't see my sons.
Yeah.
And then I realized, what am I going to do with my time away from him, away from my two sons? What kind of man and father am I going to be? Am I going to continue spiraling down, or am I going to just become a better man, a better father? That whenever I do see them, I'm not going to be this broken man that's angry over the situation. And my life just went on to this incredible journey of transformation in so many areas of my life, getting physically fit and healthy, the people in my life, reading, getting into meditation, so many beautiful tools and people that flowed into my life. I'll sort of shorten it there because I feel what I went through of the 3 years of not seeing my sons was like I was running fast one day and I tripped and I grazed my knees. And there was some blood compared to some of the fathers that I worked with. So I don't want to go into too much detail, but hopefully that just shares an initial.
No, that's amazing, and it helps set the stage. And like I know for me, and I know one of the questions that I want to chat with you about, and you started to get there, was how is this a gift? How is it a blessing? Because I'll tell you, any guy that's been alienated from his kids is going to have a hard time even receiving that as a possibility. I know for me, I got to a place where I'm like, well, I'm either a victim, a villain, or a hero. And you know, I don't think any guy listening to me that's been alienated from his kids wants to choose victim or villain. So the only option left is hero. What I love about you, Garry, is you actually create an environment for guys to actually pursue that and get in a place where they can be that hero. So let's talk about like that. Like how is it a gift? And maybe even before we talk about how is it a gift, how does this affect guys? Because we need to be honest about where we're starting from. Like for me, you know, as you know, I've been missing my girls now for a year and a half, and it was as if my children had died. It's not as if, it still is as if they've died. It's extremely hard, and people can't really understand how visceral and gutting that is. So can we chat a little bit about where like guys are starting? Because there's guys listening to us are like, okay, do these guys really understand the depth of my pain and the anguish? Because, you know, I don't think we're doing it justice if we say it's a gift and a blessing and we just go. Let's grab these guys for a minute and say, no, like we're with you, man.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's that mourning the death of your children while they're still alive, because you don't know how this plays out. One of the first things that affects most fathers is their sleep, because their subconscious part of their brain is trying to solve an impossible problem. Doesn't know how, and this is ever going to work out. When are they ever going to see their kids? Are their kids going to be okay in this time away from them and this time being missed out? So sleep is one of, you want to protect, you want to nurture, you want to guide, you want to share wisdom. You can't do any of that. And so you're going against some primal, powerful instincts here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we've also then got all the opinions, right? And my dad was a pretty colorful Newfoundlander, and you'll have to fill in the blanks here, but he used to say opinions are like everybody's got one. And you know, the ambiguity that comes from people saying, well, don't worry, they'll come back someday. Like that's like the worst thing you can say to a guy, because the guy wants to know, well, when, right? The other thing that is terrible is, well, have you tried this? Or do you think maybe you should try that? Or maybe you could try this, like how do you fix it? Well, you don't think these guys in their sleepless nights haven't tried to figure out how they're going to fix it? A third one that I've noticed is, was there something that you did wrong that you need to apologize for or own? It's like, okay, if a guy's been separated from his kids that long, I can most assuredly tell you he's tried apologizing and everything else he can think of. So, you know, guys, we feel you. Like those three are like knives to the chest. So let's chat about how this is a gift and a blessing. because that's one thing we don't hear about anywhere. And Garry, the first time I met you, I was already there in my thought process, but you were able to articulate for me what I was already thinking. So how is this a gift?
Because this is something that it's a fire that rips through your life, and it changes the course of your life. It puts a stop to so many things within your life. And one of those stops is your contact with your children. And normally as a father, you are spending this beautiful time with them, taking them to football practice or ballet, helping them with homework, dinners, etc. You've suddenly got so much more time on your life that you can actually work on yourself. And this is where, and we can probably cover this a little bit later, but the pillars of your life really plays a role here. But where you are got this time now to nurture yourself, go through that healing, because often it's as a result of an intense divorce, been in a relationship with somebody for 5 years, 10, 20 years, that's been severed. You're suffering from that, and there's this time to be by yourself and start healing. But very important, many fathers end up isolating themselves too much. A little short period and just is okay. But very important is, as part of this, is surrounding yourself by other men, other fathers that understand this. So this becomes a gift as you start meeting other men, as long as you're joining the right type of groups and you're not angry towards the mother and angry about women in general, that you are finding men that are wanting to become better men, wanting to better themselves, better fathers.
Want to heal. They want to forgive.
Yes.
Yeah, no, this is good. I mean, I know one of the things that that I wrestled with, and I'm looking at it. I texted you at 12:30 a.m. So I'm one of those guys who's not sleeping. I don't mind admitting it. And you had listed a couple of questions that you wanted us to chat about, and we'll get to the upward spirals. But one of the ones I came back with was, what do you say to encourage men to keep going when faced with such overwhelming devastation in their life? So of course they're going to isolate. You're so wounded. I remember a lot of my extended family like, well, you pushed us away. It's like, well, it's not that I'm pushing you away. It's that I'm in such absolute pain and I don't know how to articulate it or even what to do with it. And the last thing you want to do is to some extent talk about it, right? Because it's not a guy thing to want to talk about it 10 times a day with everybody you run into. So what do you say to those guys? Like when you talk about it's okay to isolate for a bit, but you got to find healthy relationships.
So know that first year is going to be hell. And it feels like 2 weeks, 6 months of not seeing your son or your daughter, that it's going to go on forever. And this pain you're feeling, our mind just kind of portrays the worst case scenario and expands it out for the next 5 years, 10 years that you're going to be feeling that. We've got a natural ability to be able to get to a better place over some time. Now, it depends if you keep getting stuck in this. And this is where, as part of 100K Fathers, we don't go down the pathway of recommending fighting in family courts and getting all these experts involved, because that often just inflames that situation. So I'll cover that in a moment, but it's about just realizing you're not alone in this. When you try and tell your story, a lot of people are not going to understand.
No.
And so they're going to think in their mind, what is it that you did? Why doesn't your 16-year-old daughter want to see you? There must be something that you've done.
Or didn't do, or should do,
or should have done. Yes.
Yeah.
So you isolate yourself, and part of that isolation, if you want to torture somebody, put them into solitary confinement. And we feel with the shame of this, as you speak to people, you see that look on their face, like, what is it that you did? And so either fathers start lying about it, or they don't speak to people, or it's that isolation that takes place. So don't isolate for very long. Get involved in things, contribute to your time, get yourself healthy. Like, this is where removing toxins out of your life, because you need to be at this healthiest place, and adding anything in, alcohol, drugs, a lot of those things are going to give you very short and temporary relief on this pain, but it's going to just amplify that going into the future. So it's looking at removing those things, getting yourself to a gym, getting yourself part of a community, contributing to different areas in society.
I liked what you said, Garry. At one point, you said something along the lines of, what you want to do is you want to work on yourself during this time. Like, let me back up here. My whole wake of my divorce for 13 years, I had in my calendar pink. And so I have a very intense work schedule. And so anytime that was with the kids, I had, shared custody, joint parenting. If I was picking the kids up after school at 2:30, I didn't work. Like, I had pink from 2:30 on for the rest of the evening, and my employees and my staff knew, okay, if it's pink, it's like the most important meeting of the day. It's non-negotiable. And like you said, all of a sudden that was just all gone. All the pink was gone. And I was like, I don't know what to do with myself. I don't even know what my purpose is anymore. I don't even know what I'm alive for, right? Was what starts to go through a guy's head. And I just was sitting here thinking about how you said you're literally in a state where you're like a soldier on a battlefield that's been wounded, but you can't even retreat from the fight. You're stuck in the fight. You need to give yourself permission to leave the battlefield. And the other thing that I picked up already in my short interactions with 100K fathers was when your kids come back. Now, we can't help the ambiguity of when that happens, so because that's torture. But when they do, they need to find a whole man, not a drowning man. That was really powerful to me, going back to what I said earlier about victim, villain, or hero. Well, heroes go to the gym. Heroes get back on the saddle, right? They don't wallow in self-pity, shame, and isolation. And so with that said, let's talk about your spirals and where we go. So how do men find hope in the wake of this blow? This is a devastating, crushing blow. I think any guy listening to us that's experienced it now knows, okay, these two guys actually know what they're talking about. They've lived it. Garry is further up the mountain than me. He's on the summit, encouraging 100,000 men to make this climb. And thank God for you. I'm one of the guys on the side of the hill saying, come on, guys, we can do this. But Garry, how do guys do this? How do we get into an upward spiral?
Start with very tangible and practical things. So one of the first things that when I work with fathers is go into your fridge in your cupboard and look at anything in there that does not serve you. So it might be anything from the lovely sugary sweets to the sodas to all of those things. Take it out on a counter, take a photo of it that you can remind yourself of this as the start of your journey.
Well, this is practical. This is real
practical.
Raw. Like, we're packing your backpack for the climb here.
You're right.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't want another 200 pounds of excess weight there that
not
doesn't
with
serve
the mountain,
you.
not with the mountain and the hole we got to climb out of. Exactly.
This is a serious abyss that fathers find themselves in. And there is some work that needs to be done. There's no magic bullet, no magic pill.
Yeah.
So starting there, and whenever you eat something, does this serve me? Is this turning me into this man and father my children want to meet one day? Or is this just some short-term pleasure that's helping me numb part of the pain?
Right.
So,
okay.
First thing, food and drink. That includes alcohol as well. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. What else do we got?
Next is
this just is awesome. Like, we're literally packing the backpack here.
Start moving your body. This is where just going for a 10-minute walk, 20-minute walk, get into nature. Nature is such a beautiful healer when you go through something like this.
Yeah.
Find yourself other fathers, community of fathers that understand this. Like I was saying, not angry fathers, not looking to, take down the system, just fathers who are looking to become better men.
So don't climb alone.
Don't climb alone. Don't dive alone. Don't climb alone.
I'm thinking about my good friend, Manly Feinberg. You might not know him. He'll end up on this podcast, but he's a climber and a CEO been a CEO of a number of companies. But he always say it's important that we're on the belay for each other. Now, anybody who's a climber knows what a belay is, but it's that little clip, the aluminum clip that clips together. It's the only thing that keeps your partner from falling back into the abyss. So I'm gonna do a nod out to Manly Feinberg right now and say, climb in a community and get on belay for each other.
Yes.
Okay. What else?
Then get real with yourself. Take a photo of yourself front and side that you can actually see where you're at. And that's a hard one for fathers to actually do, because we're don't actually realize the impact that this can have on our lives, but that physical body, you're going to need that going into the future. And that's one of the things as these pillars to put work into. You want your children to see this father that's happy, that's healthy, that's looked after himself, not let himself go over this time. As years go by, it's so easy for that to spiral down. So as part of that, it's then also start moving your body physically outside of just getting into nature and walking. This is where you start on 5 push-ups a day on your knees, as long as you don't have any spinal issues or anything like that. But start off very simple. 5 push-ups a day times 5 sets. The next day, you do 6 push-ups times 5 sets. The next day, 7. Get yourself up to 20. And when you are able to get there, then do a normal plank style push-up. What this is that when you go through something like this, you feel like you're stagnating in your life and you're going backwards. And for men, we need completion within our lives. When you go through something like this, there is no end to this. And so this deep feeling of unhappiness, this unsettled feeling, or that our life is going backwards. Each time you complete and you're making this progress, where those 5 push-ups on your knees were extremely difficult, in 2 weeks, suddenly you're close to 100 push-ups. And those first 5 that, as part of getting to 20, seem so easy that you can feel the progress and change within your life.
This is good. So basically, you've packed your backpack, you've got your community of climbers, and now you need to start preparing for the climb. But it's forward movement is the bigger narrative here. Like, get moving forward, which for guys moving forward aren't moving backwards.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Then, what else, Garry?
Audiobook, podcasts, like positive ones that
so feed your brain, feed your head.
Yes, like listen to Marcus Aurelius on Stoicism. You're looking, Ryan Holiday on The Obstacle is the Way as a good starting point. David Goggins on Callousing the Mind.
Yeah, David Goggins. That'll whip you into shape in a hurry. I think about Jesse Itzler's book, Living with a Navy SEAL. Yes. Any guy who hasn't read that should read that book. Yes. So yeah, David Goggins is a machine.
Yeah, and there are so many. As you start going down that pathway, there's going to be other types of books like that you're going to come across. Why that's important is when you have time by yourself and you've now, often it's gone through that intense divorce, you now lost your wife, your children, and now you've got all this time on your hands and you're not used to it. It's such a sudden thing often that happens.
Oh, yeah.
And so you've got this time in your hands, and when your mind is idle like that, it's gonna take you down a very dark pathway. So filling it with these positive actions and these mentors in the form of these audiobooks to just plant all these beautiful seeds and ideas in your mind of where you can go next, where's next. And that just keeps, it's like this rudder that's been smashed off your boat and you're in this storm. And if you don't have a rudder on your boat, you're just going to be going everywhere. And you end up in this little rowing boat where one day you're going this way and next day you're going that way. And this starts rebuilding that rudder and this feeling like there's some changes that are taking place in your life. The audiobook to just keep your mind on track, connecting with some good friends. Things also, you can just make a list of all the things that you gave up as well during the wedding, during the marriage, to have kept, like that marriage going and your wife being happy. Often many fathers were into musical instruments and woodworking and all these things that took time, but to try and fix that relationship, he gave up on many of those things. So start delving into things that used to bring you a lot of happiness in your life and start slowly introducing those into your life. So, I mean, there is so many different ways, But we'll integrate these very slowly into your life here, where you just sort of start off with removing those toxins, exercise, get that going for a week. Then you can start introducing some other of these pillars and these other ways of strengthening your life and your mind and other relationships around you.
This is fantastic, Gary. And I mean, I know if guys plug into 100K Fathers, then they have access to much, much more than just this. But you know, finding things that you loved once, and even new activities, and obviously it goes without saying what that would do. I mean, I know you could go on and on and on. What I'm going to suggest is, and just in the interest of time on our podcast today, that people come and find you. Like guys, what I can definitely say is when you plug into 100K Fathers, I had 3 different guys text me in the first week, and the reality is it was overwhelming. Like I actually felt, I didn't know how I felt. Actually, I went to my wife and I said, I don't know how to respond to these guys because I know that they get it, but I've been holding this wound so tightly and so closely, other than my wife being privy to it, and she's carrying her own wound, obviously, as well as this amazing stepmom to these kids for, you know, pretty much their entire lives. And I said, these guys are reaching out to me, but I'm not really ready or even feeling like I'm able to talk yet. So going back to the community thing, you know, plug into 100K Fathers, but I can say from experience, well, you'll find me there. But what I can say from experience too is that, you know, you can go as slow or as fast as you want with the guys. But what you will definitely find is you're in a community of guys that get everything you're dealing with. It'll be the one place for the first time ever that you don't have to explain to anybody what's going on, or try to explain more accurately, and often with frustration and failure. Garry, just to move on and to land the plane, is there any, you know, other 1 or 2 big items that you would throw to guys, you know, just to encourage them to get over to 100K Fathers in the wake of listening to this podcast?
You know, this is where when you go through something like this, your mind and your life experience and everybody around you is going to try and share with you wisdom and guidance on how to navigate this. Yeah. When you join, you are standing on the shoulders of other fathers that have tried so many different pathways, not everything, but so many different pathways, and years of this. So you don't need to go through that suffering of what doesn't work yourself and then be encouraged by what does work. So that is a huge thing as part of this collective wisdom from the fathers. And then also, it's this journeys of other fathers that have reunited with their kids. What's on the other side of reuniting? It's not that's where everything is sunshine and rainbows and everything's great. There is work to be done then. It's a different level that you're going to discover as being a father as you step into that role of reuniting with your children. I've now, on something I didn't share in the beginning, I've reunited with my sons now for 6 years now. They're 19 and 22, beautiful relationship with them. And even something that I never thought I'd ever get to, and many fathers don't, and that's okay, is being able to communicate with their mother and being able to arrange trips for my sons to come over here. So my youngest son's living with me at the moment, and he flies back out, but there's going to be other times with like my older son coming over. So there is that healing that takes place and letting go of a lot of that pain and suffering. And so it's really through speaking with these fathers, you get to see what's on the other side, and that there's work to be done, but also there's how they've gone about reuniting with their children. How have they gone about healing those wounds? What not to say to them. So many fathers have been gathering 5 years of court evidence that they want to show this big binder to their children to show, I never gave up on you. The problem with that is inside of that is evidence about the mother, and the child's going to read that, and the child is half the mother, half the father. And this is so often stories I've heard where fathers have done that, and then that's the last time they see from their children. And so it's that beautiful wisdom of what not to do and what to do on the other side after reuniting with your children. And it continues, this journey, and there's so many different layers to this as time goes by, and as this wisdom is being collected by the fathers. We're figuring this out. It's fathers as young as 30 all the way to 70 years old that have reached out. And so it's whatever your age, it's don't suffer in silence. It is know that help is there, and fathers have gone through this, and there's a lot of positive sides at the end of this. So many gifts.
What you're giving is hope. And what I also like is when you say there's work on the other side. So guys, if you're listening to Garry, he's saying there's hope, and you're going to have to do work sooner or later, because if there's work on the other side to restore and rebuild a relationship with your kids, you may as well start the work today, because you're in a dark abyss all alone anyway. So there's only really one of two options: stay there. And I think it goes without saying where that's going to lead you, right? Suicide rates amongst dads that have been alienated is like through the roof. Like, it's the highest stat. So you don't want to be there. You don't. We don't want you to be there. So start the climb and do the work would be, the words I think that we have for you. Garry, I want to thank you obviously for joining me today. I think a great gift, if you think about it, for both you and I, from our own pain, is 100K fathers and fathers for fathers. So our encouragement to the guys is, look, like Garry said, find some things you loved once, some activities, and start doing them, and just start to find some healthy outlets with the time that you have. Garry, thanks so much for joining.
Jonathan, thank you. It's an honor to be part here and a part of this podcast. And I hope that there's a father that's listening to this that just takes one or two of these ideas, these seeds in his mind, and starts taking action on those. And that's what it is. Just start taking some action, and that progress is going to start shifting your mind there. So thank you so much, Jonathan.
No problem. I'm going to do 3 push-ups tonight. I don't think I can do 5.
I believe in
2
you.
years,
You can do it.
2 years ago, I was running marathons, and I had no problem doing 20 chin-ups. And now I don't even think I could do 3 push-ups. But there you go, guys. We got to get out. We got to get on the belay and get climbing with each other. So God bless all the men listening. Garry, thank you for coming. And I don't even mind saying, Garry and I have another round together tonight, just the way our schedules went. So I'm actually spending time one-on-one with Garry as one of those fathers. So guys, we invite you to come in. What's the app that you're using, Garry, that guys will join when they join? It's Mighty, and they ultimately come into 100K fathers. And that's obviously once you've vetted them, because I know what we don't want is angry fathers that are ready to go postal. That's not the goal here, but.
Yeah, the app is Mighty Networks, but once, and the best is really find on the website 100K fathers and just schedule a call and just see if this is the right fit for you. That's what this is about. Yeah.
Okay, guys, God bless. Garry, thank you so much for coming, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Holding me, I'm sinking, Father, this world is just too much on my